Welcome everyone to Wizards Outlook. We got Raymond Lyons here. I'm also talking. We talked about some of these things in pregame, and for a while there, Washington did check several boxes. It led them to an explosive first half offensively, but even then, right, we saw they kind of couldn't fully get out their own way, where the Bulls were able to hang on because they kept putting them on the foul line in the first half. That said, they built their lead to as many as 16. Then we saw the Bulls steadily in the second half just walking down. A lot of it had to do with second chance points. The job they did on the offensive glass. Both teams did hit the offensive glass well, but I just want to get your thoughts on this one, Rays. We see the Wizards falter, stumble late, and the Bulls, both teams lost last night, and the Bulls got out of there tonight with a W.
Yeah, you pointed out the quick start offensively, which is good, but like we say all the time, if they do one thing well, they want to make sure they do 10 other things poorly, and that stuff just kind of adds up, man. They had 41 points in the first quarter, but gave up 40. Um, yeah, just because you're making shots, you still got to stop the other team because with the way they were shooting and scoring early, they should have been up comfortably. If a team's having that kind of offensive output against them, typically the rest of the game is just a formality. Um, but they came out, they were scoring well, but you pointed out the turnovers. That's just been a thing for a while now, and they weren't able to get defensive stops. And everywhere else, they just allowed the Bulls to kind of play into a stalemate. You got to take advantage of those spurts where you got them. Corey Kispert came in on fire. If he has a game like that, that's not supposed to be necessary. That's supposed to be icing on the cake, so to speak. But yeah, it was. It's just tough sledding for them right now, man. Yeah, again, they sent the Bulls to the line 30 times. Um, and what was that last night against Toronto? I think they sent them to the line 39 times. So they got to defend without fouling. That's when you have a lead. That's the worst. That's your worst enemy. Allowing the other team to score points while the clock is stopped. And yeah, man, that just kind of allowed the Bulls to stabilize things until the Wizards cooled off. And once that hot shooting went away, with the other areas of the game, they were struggling. And they just weren't able fin- to finish Chicago off. And they just steadily walked them down and seized the opportunity, and then came away with the win.
Yeah, and not only Corey Kispert, he had a huge first half. Cam Whitmore had a really productive game. Another productive game coming off the bench. Coming into this game, they were talking about on the broadcast that those were two of the top benches in the league, top producing benches in the league, with Chicago in first and Washington in fourth. And even then, it's still, as much as both of their groups did produce in this one, um, the free throw line, like you said, that was the biggest difference. We go back to that first half, right? It ends up being 70, I want to say 70 to 64 at the half, right? They sent the Bulls to the line 18 times in the first half. The Bulls were 16 to 18 from the line. Even, obviously it's not realistic for us to be like, if you wipe off the, 16 free points, Washington's lead is 16. Say you wipe off eight of the free throws. That's still the type of lead you were talking about, where you have a bit of a cushion, and the other team's pressing coming out at halftime. Instead, Bulls got going. Kobe White he's continuing to move his name up that list of I love seeing the Wizards, whether it's at home or away. If I see them, I'm gonna have a good game, and he was huge for them. He just got back this season as well. This was his third game of the season. He played in two of the last three games. Didn't play last night. Played tonight on the second night of the back-to-back. But yeah, man, that was the thing. I think that was the most sad part about it for me, was that You held them to 41% shooting when you weren't fouling. So you were playing good defense. And there was no gray area. You either played really good defense or you sent them to the line. To your point, he's talking about, checking one box to do something well, and then another couple boxes go unchecked. Like that almost negates, it doesn't almost, it literally negates the first part of you holding them to 41% shooting in the first half if you put them back on the line for 3 points. Now, if they missed them all right, cool, then, there's nothing to talk about, but you literally helped them stay in the game because you kept fouling. And that parade to the free throw line continued in the second half for Chicago. He said they went 30 times. It was 18 in the first half. That's another double-digit trips in the second half. That was stuff real quick for Washington. Milestone alert for Corey Kispert. They've been talking about over the past few broadcasts. With 8:14 to go in the second quarter, Corey connected on a 600th career three-pointer, becoming the fourth player in franchise history to reach the mark per Wizards PR. Also, on the other side, I'm going to shout out one milestone for the Wizards. We're not above shouting it out for the Bulls. Josh Giddey recorded his 22nd career triple-double. And that was the other thing in this one. I was talking pregame, like dudes coming in, just round the other two statistics up. It's pretty much a triple-double. And he goes out tonight and just casually gets a triple-double. What do you think? We saw what happened late, right? So they end up down one. They inbound the ball with 5.5 seconds left. And, the Bulls blitz Keyshawn, and they force a turnover. Your thoughts on what you saw at the end, because they had a chance still, despite everything that happened. With 5.5 seconds to go, you had 5.5 seconds, and you didn't need to take a three.
Just classic Three Stooges basketball, man. Like that was the. If you asked me how that possession was going to go, that outcome was going to be like number 35 on my list. I mean, you didn't even get into doing anything productive. And they just seem unprepared. Like that's a situation typically that you would think they have some options for. And it just looked like the plan was to give Keyshawn the ball, let him figure it out on the fly. And that's why the possession went the way it went.
Yeah, like they immediately blitzed it. It's like, all right, so Chicago was like, we know what we're doing. And maybe we didn't get a chance to see what Washington had planned, but it was just a disheartening way to go out, knowing that in spite of everything that happened, I felt like the Bulls had I think it was Kobe White that took that three that missed on that previous possession. I thought that was a bad possession for the Bulls. When he set up for that three, I was like, they essentially left you off the hook, because the damage that they were, most of the threes they got in the second half was because the ball was getting inside and then getting kicked out. And instead we just saw a stagnant, deep 3-point attempt taken. I'm like, all right, that's a horrible shot. Chicago, Washington, you got a chance. And then that possession was just, it was what it was. Before we get into Play the Game X Factor, and I see the comments, we'll get to that real quick. Sideshow JMK said, we can't get a win. Hope you're doing well. We are making our way through this season. I was gonna say Vucevic on the Bulls. He had 12 rebounds in this game, right? 9 of the 12 were on offensive end. Both teams were rebounding well on offensive end, but like
it just can't happen, man.
Nine of his 12 on offensive boards. All right, so put it up on the screen, man. Who'd you have?
I would Josh Giddey, man. Just the way he kind of controlled the game and impacted in several areas. Like you pointed out, the triple-double, just being that steady hand, like even and made a couple big defensive plays as the Bulls were kind of chipping away at their lead. Like it gets to the point where in some games I know the exact play where things are going to turn, and it was like the Bulls are kind of coming back, and Josh Giddey had a steal and a fast break to cut the lead to like 4-2, and I feel like at that point that was the backbreaker, and it took a little while, but they eventually erased the whole lead. But yeah, that was the point in the game. I'm like, yeah, it's whatever momentum they had been completely wiped away.
Yeah, I would agree. I would also go with Josh Giddey. I just thought he disrupted the game. Well, he impacted the game in several ways, but for what he did to Washington, I felt like he was just super disruptive. I know one of the biggest parts of the night I can't get out of my head is near the end of the first half, they kept switching with Sarr on defense, and Washington just couldn't get the ball inside to Sarr with the small on him. And Giddy's just over there digging in there, just bluffing into the lane, showing, and nothing's there. They just have to throw the pass over the top. And they couldn't get it to him on like back-to-back possessions. Then you talk about that steal, just felt like he was everywhere. X factor.
This one was a little more tough. I go with Trey Jones off the bench, man. Just being super active. Uh, Went to the line 6 times, made all 6. That free throw discrepancy was a big part of why the Bulls won. He just came in and made the most of his minutes.
Yeah, I can't fight that at all. I had Buzelis up for that. Not that we don't expect him to contribute, obviously, in year 2. I just thought defensively he was wrecking stuff in that second half when they were on their way back. There's so many times we saw Wizards players get to the lane and it looked like, the uncontested layup. Here he comes flying out of left field, tipping the ball, deflecting Eric Glass and somebody's shot. And, then he's falling out of bounds, scrambling back in. I just thought him and Giddey were just crazy on that end of the floor for them tonight. But yeah, I'm with you on Trey Jones. He just kept getting to the line, especially like the later the game went. He way to make a hell of an impact. For Washington, that means that slide continues. Also means that's over on this road trip, which is now over. They will come back home to host the Atlanta Hawks on Tuesday, which isn't going to be a walk in the park. They're without Trae Young, obviously, but when you remove him, that team gets a little bit bigger and longer on the defensive side of the ball. So that's going to be a whole issue within itself. We had one more comment. Don't want to miss that. I like George stepping up lately, minus the losing. He seems like the leader. Ray, you had any thoughts on this comment?
Yeah, he's definitely kind of coming to his own, so to speak, this year, and he seems to be the most vocal at this point. But yeah, beyond that, I don't think we can peg him a leader per se, but he's at least trying. Like him and Sarr really are the barometer for effort on this team. Everybody else barely has a pulse. Like that's just keeping it frank, man. But those 2 guys, they're at least consistently active. And it was a difference with Sarr being back tonight, after him missing the last couple games. So that's at least a positive. But if 2 out of the 15 are locked in and giving effort on the defensive end, and it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it was great to see Alex back tonight. Like you said, you could immediately tell what was missed from the last 2 games when he wasn't there. But need all 5 to be with that same energy. on a consistent basis for sure. So Jalen Johnson been playing crazy lately. Yeah, they're again, and this is what I'm about to say. Not indictment on Trae Young or anything. Just saying like they're fine. They've been fine. That is an annoying team that's crazy athletic. Washington, that's gonna be a tough one to try to get off the slide against. But at least you'll be at home. Hopefully, ends up in another late game situation. Lessons have been learned from this evening, and hopefully it works out a little differently. We shall see. But if Ray doesn't have anything else, we will see you guys Tuesday evening after they take on the Hawks.